William Shakespeare, The Man Who Changed World Literature Forever Part 1. England before Shakespeare. The England into which William Shakespeare was born in 1564 was a nation transformed by upheaval and ambition. The Tudor dynasty, established less than a century earlier, had reshaped the religious, political, and cultural landscape of the realm. Henry VII's break from Rome in the 1530s had severed England from centuries of Catholic tradition, triggering decades of religious uncertainty that touched every aspect of English life. By the time Elizabeth I ascended the throne in 1558, England remained deeply divided. Catholics longed for restoration of the old faith, while Protestant reformers pushed for further changes. Elizabeth's settlement attempted a middle way, establishing a Protestant Church of England that retained some traditional elements while rejecting papal authority. This religious tension created an atmosphere of surveillance and suspicion. Recusants who refused to attend Anglican services faced fines. Priests who celebrated Catholic Mass risked execution. Yet theatrical performance, surprisingly, found room to flourish within this climate of constraint. The theater became a space where dangerous questions about power, legitimacy, and divine authority could be explored through historical distance and metaphorical disguise. London itself was expanding rapidly during the latter half of the 16th century. The city's population swelled from approximately 75,000 in 1550 to nearly 200,000 by 1600. This growth brought prosperity, crime, disease, and cultural ferment. Merchants grew wealthy from international trade. Craftsmen organized in guilds. The poor crowded into squalid districts beyond the city walls. Into this teeming metropolis flowed young men seeking fortune, education, or escape from provincial limitations. The professional theater emerged as a distinctly English institution during these decades. Before the 1570s, dramatic performances had been primarily amateur affairs. Mystery plays staged by guilds, morality plays performed by traveling companies, court entertainments arranged for aristocratic audiences. The construction of purpose-built playhouses, beginning with the theater in Shoreditch in 1576, marked a transformation. For the first time, companies of professional actors could perform regularly for paying audiences drawn from across the social spectrum. Apprentices paid a penny to stand in the yard. Merchants and their wives sat in galleries. Occasionally, nobility occupied the most expensive seats. This theatrical revolution occurred within a broader cultural movement. Renaissance humanism, which had transformed Italy in the previous century, reached England through scholars, books, and continental travel. Humanist education emphasized the study of classical Latin and Greek texts, not merely for religious instruction but for eloquence, moral philosophy, and civic virtue. Grammar schools, established in market towns throughout England, provided rigorous classical education to boys whose families could afford to spare them from labor. These schools produced a generation literate in Virgil, Ovid, Seneca, and Terence, the very authors whose works would provide source material and structural models for Elizabethan drama. Elizabeth's court fostered this cultural flowering. The Queen herself was highly educated, fluent in Latin, Greek, French, and Italian. She understood the power of spectacle and employed pageantry, portraiture, and poetry to construct her image as Gloriana, the virgin queen wedded to her nation. Courtiers competed for royal favor partly through literary patronage. This created opportunities for writers, though the relationship between poet and patron always involved complex negotiations of dependence and dignity. The universities at Oxford and Cambridge educated the sons of gentry and ambitious merchants. A group of talented young men emerged from these institutions in the 1580s, determined to make their livings by their pens. Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, Thomas Nash, and George Peele brought university learning to the commercial theater, transforming English dramatic verse and establishing new expectations for theatrical ambition. When Shakespeare arrived in London, probably in the late 1580s, he entered a theatrical world these university wits had already begun to reshape. Sources, books and pages. Peter Ackroyd Shakespeare. The Biography pp. 328 Park Honan Shakespeare. A Life pp. 1542 Stephen Greenblatt Will in the World pp. 2346 Andrew Gurr. The Shakespearean Stage 1554-1642 pp. 135 Part 2. Shakespeare's Family and Early Life. William Shakespeare was baptized on April 26, 1564, at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon, a market town in Warwickshire. The baptismal record survives in the parish register. English custom typically required baptism within 3 days of birth, leading scholars to accept April 23 as Shakespeare's likely birth date, though this remains an educated assumption rather than documented fact. April 23 also marks the feast of St. George, England's patron saint, creating a satisfying symmetry that may have encouraged the tradition. His father, John Shakespeare, was a glover and whittower, a craftsman who prepared white leather. John Shakespeare had come to Stratford from the nearby village of Snitterfield, establishing himself as a successful businessman and respectable burgess. During the 1560s, he rose steadily through Stratford's civic hierarchy, serving as ale taster, burgess, and chamberlain before being elected bailiff in 1568, the town's highest office. This position brought prestige and authority. The bailiff administered justice, presided over council meetings, and oversaw civic affairs. As bailiff, John Shakespeare would have licensed traveling companies of players to perform in Stratford, performances the young William likely witnessed. Mary Arden, Shakespeare's mother, came from a family of higher social standing than her husband. The Ardens were established Warwickshire gentry with claims to ancient lineage. Mary inherited property from her father, Robert Arden, bringing land and status to her marriage. The union of a gentleman's daughter with an ambitious tradesman was not unusual, reflecting the fluid boundaries between social ranks in Tudor England. William was the third child but the first son to survive infancy. 2 sisters had died young. He grew up in a household that eventually included 7 siblings, though 3 died in childhood. The Shakespeare family lived on Henley Street in a substantial house that combined living quarters with John Shakespeare's workshop. The smells of leather, the rhythms of craftwork, and the comings and goings of customers formed the texture of daily life. Stratford maintained a grammar school, the King's New School, endowed for the free education of local boys. No enrollment records survive from this period, but as the son of a bailiff, William would have been entitled to attend. The curriculum at such schools followed a rigorous pattern established throughout England. Boys began at age 7, learning to read English from a hornbook and progressing to Latin grammar. By age 10, they studied Latin authors intensively. Ovid's Metamorphoses Virgil's Aeneid works by Terence, Plautus, and Seneca. Students memorized passages, practiced translation, learned rhetorical figures, and composed Latin verses. This education shaped Shakespeare profoundly. His plays demonstrate intimate familiarity with Ovid, whom he encountered at school. Rhetorical training in argument and persuasion underlies the dramatic speeches he would write. The habit of adapting and transforming classical stories became fundamental to his creative method. Ben Jonson's later jibe that Shakespeare had small Latin and less Greek reflects university-educated condescension rather than objective assessment. By modern standards, Shakespeare possessed extensive Latin learning, absorbed through relentless study during his school years. The grammar school day was long and demanding. Students attended from dawn until late afternoon, 6 days weekly. Masters enforced discipline with corporal punishment. The education aimed to produce eloquence, moral understanding, and facility with language. It succeeded remarkably in Shakespeare's case, though he never attended university, a fact that distinguished him from Marlowe, Greene, and other contemporary playwrights. John Shakespeare's fortunes declined during William's adolescence. By the late 1570s, John had stopped attending council meetings and faced legal difficulties over debts. Scholars have debated the reasons. Some suggest Catholic sympathies made his position untenable during periods of Protestant enforcement. Others point to business failures or personal misjudgment. The family's reduced circumstances may have required William to leave school earlier than planned, ending formal education around age 15, rather than continuing to university. What William did between leaving school and emerging in London remains uncertain. The period lacks documentation, forcing biographers to acknowledge the limits of knowledge while resisting unfounded speculation. Sources, books and pages. Samuel Scombaum, William Shakespeare. A Documentary Life pp. 1377 Park Honan, Shakespeare. A Life pp. 4389 Stanley Wells Shakespeare. A Life in Drama pp. 1234 Peter Ackroyd Shakespeare. The Biography pp. 5198 Part 3. The Lost Years. The period between approximately 1585 and 1592 represents the most obscure phase of Shakespeare's life. Scholars refer to these as the lost years, when documentary evidence vanishes and biography gives way to conjecture. What is known with certainty is limited but significant. On November 28, 1582, at age 18, Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway, the daughter of a Stratford farmer. Anne was 26, 8 years older than her husband. Their first child, Susanna, was baptized on May 26, 1583, 6 months after the wedding. The timing indicates that Anne was pregnant before marriage, a circumstance not uncommon in Elizabethan England, though it typically prompted hasty arrangements. 2 years later, on February 2, 1585, twins were baptized, Hamlet and Judith, named after family friends Hamlet and Judith Sadler. After this baptismal record, Shakespeare disappears from Stratford's documents for 7 years. When he reemerges, it is in London, already established as an actor and playwright attracting notice and resentment. How he made this transition remains mysterious. Numerous theories have attempted to fill the gap. John Aubrey, writing in the late 17th century, claimed Shakespeare had been a schoolmaster. This would explain his evident education and familiarity with pedagogical methods visible in his plays. Some scholars suggest he worked in his father's glove-making business. Others propose he joined a traveling company of actors who visited Stratford, learning the profession on the road. The Jesuit Robert Southwell's claim that a William Shakespeare served in a Lancashire Catholic household has prompted speculation about crypto-Catholic connections, though the identification remains uncertain. What seems clear is that Shakespeare left his family behind. Anne and the children remained in Stratford while he pursued his career in London. This separation lasted decades. Some biographers have interpreted this as evidence of marital unhappiness, pointing to the famous bequest in Shakespeare's will of his second-best bed to Anne as proof of coldness. Others note that the best bed was typically reserved for guests, making the second-best bed the marital bed, thus rendering the bequest a gesture of intimacy rather than insult. The truth remains inaccessible. The financial pressures on a young man with a wife and 3 children would have been considerable. His father's declining fortunes meant no inheritance was forthcoming. Stratford offered limited opportunities for an ambitious young man of exceptional abilities, but no university education or capital. London, by contrast, offered possibilities for those willing to risk everything in pursuit of success. By the early 1590s, Shakespeare had clearly established himself sufficiently to provoke the dying playwright Robert Greene's famous attack in 1592, calling Shakespeare an upstart crow who presumed to compete with university-educated dramatists. This suggests Shakespeare had already achieved enough success to threaten established writers, indicating he must have been working in London for several years before 1592. The lost years thus represent a period of transformation and struggle, of which only the outcome, Shakespeare's emergence as a successful playwright, is documented. The process by which a provincial glover's son with a grammar school education became the greatest dramatist in the English language remains one of literature's enduring mysteries. Sources, books, and pages. Stephen Greenblatt, Will in the World pp. 119-147 Park Honan, Shakespeare, A Life pp. 90-135 Samuel Schoenbaum, William Shakespeare, A Documentary Life pp. 78-115 Stanley Wells, Shakespeare, A Life in Drama pp. 35-48 Part 4, Arrival in London in the late 1580s and early 1590s was the undisputed center of English theatrical life. The professional theater had established itself through a network of playhouses located strategically outside the city of London's jurisdiction, where Puritan authorities maintained hostility toward dramatic entertainments. The theater and the curtain stood in Shoreditch to the north. South of the Thames, beyond the reach of city officials, the Rose was erected in 1587, soon to be joined by the Swan. The earliest definite reference to Shakespeare in London appears in Robert Greene's posthumously published pamphlet Groatsworth of Wit issued in September 1592. Greene, a university-educated playwright dying in poverty, warned his fellow writers about an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers, that with his tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide supposes he is as well able to bombast out a blank verse as the best of you. The phrase tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide parodied a line from Shakespeare's early play, Henry V.I., Part 3 O tiger's heart wrapped in a woman's hide. Greene's attack confirms that by 1592, Shakespeare had established himself both as an actor and as a playwright sufficiently successful to threaten established dramatists. How Shakespeare entered the theatrical profession remains uncertain, but several pathways existed. Traveling companies regularly toured provincial towns, performing in inn yards or guild halls after obtaining official permission. Lord Strange's men, the Queen's men, and other companies visited Stratford during Shakespeare's youth. He might have joined such a company, learning the actor's craft while touring. Alternatively, he might have arrived in London independently, seeking employment in the playhouses that were rapidly expanding their repertoires and needed both actors and scripts. The theater business operated on commercial principles. Playing companies were organized as joint stock ventures, with shares held by senior members. Companies employed hired men, actors who worked for wages rather than sharing profits, and apprentices, typically boys training to play female roles. A successful company needed a regular supply of new plays to attract audiences. Playwrights sold their scripts outright to companies, typically receiving between £6 and £10 per play. Once sold, the play belonged to the company, not the author. Shakespeare's career diverged from this pattern. Rather than remaining merely a playwright selling scripts, he became a shareholder in his company, eventually achieving financial security that few contemporary dramatists matched. This business acumen, combined with his literary talents, distinguished him from figures like Greene, Marlowe, or Thomas Kyd, who remained dependent on irregular payments for individual plays. By 1594, the theatrical landscape had been disrupted by a severe outbreak of plague that closed the playhouses intermittently between 1592 and 1594. When theaters reopened, the companies reorganized. The Lord Chamberlain's Men was formed under the patronage of Henry Carey, Lord Hunsdon, who served as Lord Chamberlain to Queen Elizabeth. Shakespeare joined this company as a shareholder, actor, and resident playwright, a position he would maintain for the remainder of his career. The company included Richard Burbage, son of James Burbage, who had built the theater. Richard Burbage became the age's greatest tragic actor, creating the roles of Hamlet, Othello, and Lear. Will Kemp, a celebrated comic actor, specialized in clowning and jigs. The combination of exceptional actors, stable patronage, and Shakespeare's plays made the Lord Chamberlain's Men London's leading company. Shakespeare's fellow shareholders included John Heminges and Henry Condell, who would later compile the first folio. These men worked together for decades, creating institutional stability unusual in the volatile theatrical world. While other companies fragmented through quarrels or financial collapse, the Chamberlain's men endured, eventually becoming the King's men under James I's patronage in 1603. Shakespeare's reputation grew steadily during the 1590s. Francis Mears, in his 1598 critical work Pallades Tamia, praised Shakespeare as England's finest dramatist for both comedy and tragedy, listing 12 plays and comparing him to Ovid and Plautus. This contemporary assessment confirms Shakespeare's rising status among educated observers. Sources, books, and pages. Andrew Gurr, The Shakespearean Stage, 1574-1642, pp. 3689. Peter Ackroyd, Shakespeare, The Biography, pp. 134-178. Park Honan, Shakespeare, A Life, pp. 136-189. James Shapiro, 1599, A Year in the Life of William Shakespeare, pp. 347. Part 5, Rise as Playwright. Shakespeare's ascent as the Lord Chamberlain's men's principal dramatist occurred during a decade of extraordinary productivity. Between 1594 and 1600, he wrote approximately 2 plays annually, ranging across genres with remarkable versatility. This period established his reputation and his fortune. As a shareholder in the company, Shakespeare occupied a unique position. Most playwrights worked freelance, selling scripts to whichever company offered payment. Shakespeare wrote exclusively for the Chamberlain's men, crafting roles specifically for the company's actors. He knew Richard Burbage's strengths as a tragedian, understood Will Kemp's comic style, and wrote accordingly. This intimate connection between playwright and performers enabled a creative symbiosis impossible under typical commercial arrangements. Shakespeare's working methods reflected practical theatrical realities. He rarely invented plots entirely, instead adapting existing stories from chronicles, novellas, classical sources, and earlier plays. For his English histories, he drew heavily on Raphael Holinshed's Chronicles of England, Scotland, and Ireland *, sometimes lifting passages almost verbatim before transforming them into dramatic verse. For Romeo and Juliet *, he adapted Arthur Brooke's narrative poem. For Hamlet *, he reworked an earlier revenge tragedy, now lost. This practice was standard. Originality consisted in execution rather than invention. The classical education Shakespeare received at grammar school shaped his dramaturgy profoundly. Ovid's Metamorphoses provided source material for numerous plays and permeated his imagery. Seneca's tragedies influenced the revenge themes and rhetorical style of plays like Titus Andronicus. Plautus and Terence provided models for comedy. Yet Shakespeare transformed these influences through his particular genius for characterization, language, and structural innovation. The company performed in various venues. Public playhouses like the Theatre and the Curtain offered afternoon performances for paying audiences. The company also performed at court, especially during winter seasons when the Queen commanded entertainment. These court performances brought prestige and additional income. Occasionally, the company played in aristocratic households or at the Inns of Court, where law students maintained theatrical traditions. Shakespeare continued to work as an actor throughout this period, though his roles remain largely unknown. Later tradition suggests he played dignified secondary parts: the ghost in Hamlet Adam in As You Like It Acting, writing, and managing his share in the company demanded constant attention, leaving little leisure. The late 1590s brought changes. Will Kemp left the company around 1599, perhaps due to conflicts over theatrical direction. He was replaced by Robert Armin, a more sophisticated comedian capable of playing roles like Fest in Twelfth Night or the Fool in King Lear ***. This change in personnel influenced the types of comedy Shakespeare wrote, moving from Kemp's physical clowning toward Armin's witty wordplay. Financial success came steadily. By 1597, Shakespeare had accumulated enough wealth to purchase New Place, one of Stratford's largest houses, for £60. This purchase demonstrated his economic achievement and his continued connection to Stratford despite his London career. His father, John Shakespeare, also benefited from his son's prosperity. In 1596, John was granted a coat of arms by the College of Heralds, establishing the family among the gentry. The motto chosen was "Non-sans droit," not without right. The achievement crowned John Shakespeare's social ambitions and reflected William's financial support. Personal tragedy marked this period. In August 1596, Shakespeare's only son, Hamlet, died at age 11. The burial is recorded in Stratford's parish register. How this loss affected Shakespeare can only be inferred from his work. Some scholars detect deepening tragic sensibility in plays written afterward, though such biographical readings remain speculative. *** Sources, books and pages. *** James Shapiro, * 1599. A Year in the Life of William Shakespeare * pp. 48-112. Stanley Wells, * Shakespeare, A Life in Drama pp. 49-87. Park Honan, Shakespeare, A Life * pp. 190-243. Stephen Greenblatt, Will in the World * pp. 211-289. Part 6. The Globe Theatre. The Globe Theatre, which opened in 1599, became synonymous with Shakespeare's mature work and remains the most famous playhouse in theatrical history. Its creation resulted from both opportunism and necessity. The theatre in Shoreditch, built by James Burbage in 1576, stood on leased land. When the lease expired in 1597, negotiations with the landlord failed. The Burbage family held rights to the building itself, however. In an audacious move, Richard and Cuthbert Burbage hired workmen to dismantle the theatre during Christmas 1598, when the landlord was absent. They transported the timbers across the Thames to Bankside, where they used the materials to construct a new playhouse. Financing this venture required capital beyond what the Burbages possessed. They formed a partnership with 5 members of the Lord Chamberlain's men, including Shakespeare, who each purchased shares in the new theatre. This made Shakespeare not only a company shareholder but a theatre owner, entitled to a portion of the Globe's revenues. This dual income stream, from both company profits and theatre receipts, provided unprecedented financial security. The Globe was a polygonal structure, probably with 20 sides, giving it a roughly circular appearance. It stood approximately 3 stories high, with an open central yard surrounded by covered galleries. The stage projected into the yard, allowing the audience to surround the action on 3 sides. A thatched roof covered the galleries but not the yard, leaving groundlings exposed to weather. Stage machinery included trapdoors for supernatural appearances and an upper level for balcony scenes. Capacity is estimated at 3,000 spectators. Admission prices were stratified. 1 penny to stand in the yard, additional pennies for gallery seats, with the most expensive seats offering the best views and weather protection. This pricing structure ensured mixed audiences. Apprentices, servants, and laborers stood in the yard. Merchants and their families occupied middle galleries. Occasionally, nobility and gentry attended, though private performances at court or aristocratic houses were more typical for elite audiences. Performances occurred in daylight, typically beginning at 2 in the afternoon. Companies advertised by flying flags visible across the Thames and posting playbills. The repertory system meant a different play performed daily, with popular works revived periodically. Actors needed prodigious memories, maintaining roles in numerous plays simultaneously. The Globe stage required minimal scenery. Location was established through dialogue rather than sets. A throne might indicate a court scene, a bed, a chamber. The absence of elaborate scenery emphasized language and acting. Shakespeare's texts reflect these conditions, with characters often announcing where they are and what surrounds them. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks, establishes location and time through poetry rather than lighting effects. The original globe served the company for 14 years. Shakespeare wrote most of his greatest tragedies for this stage. Hamlet asterisk, asterisk Othello asterisk, King Lear asterisk, asterisk Macbeth asterisk. The space shaped these plays' dramaturgy. The Globe's capacity for intimacy and spectacle, its mixed audience, and its daylight performances all influenced Shakespeare's craft. Disaster struck on June 29, 1613, during a performance of Henry VIII. A theatrical cannon fired as part of the spectacle ignited the thatched roof. The building burned to the ground within hours. Miraculously, no one died, though one man's breeches caught fire and were extinguished with beer. The company rebuilt immediately, constructing a grander structure with a tiled roof, which opened in 1614. Shakespeare, by then largely retired, apparently contributed to the reconstruction costs as a shareholder, but wrote no more plays for the new building. Sources, books, and pages. Andrew Gurr, The Shakespearean Stage 1574-1642 pp. 9156 James Shapiro, 1599. A Year in the Life of William Shakespeare pp. 113-178 Peter Ackroyd, Shakespeare, The Biography pp. 267-298 Park Honan, Shakespeare, A Life pp. 244-278 Part 7. Shakespeare's greatest work. Shakespeare's dramatic output divides conventionally into histories, comedies, tragedies, and late romances. This categorization, while imperfect, helps organize a body of work remarkable for both quantity and quality. The history plays established Shakespeare's early reputation. The three parts of Henry VIII, probably written between 1590 and 1592, dramatize England's 15th-century civil wars. These plays demonstrate remarkable ambition for a young playwright, organizing chaotic historical material into coherent dramatic narratives. Richard Roman III*, probably composed in 1592 or 1593, crystallized the Tudor myth of history, presenting Richard as a deformed villain whose defeat by Henry Tudor at Bosworth Field restored legitimate monarchy. Richard Burbage's performance made the role famous, and the play remained popular for centuries. Shakespeare returned to English history in the late 1590s, with two tetralogies tracing royal succession and legitimacy. Richard II examines the deposition of a legitimate but ineffective king, raising questions about rebellion and authority dangerous in a monarchical state. Henry IV, Parts 1 and 2 balance political drama with the comic education of Prince Hal among the Low Company of Falstaff, the greatest comic creation in English literature. Henry V** portrays the ideal warrior king, though modern critics debate whether the play celebrates or critiques imperial conquest. The comedies range from early experiments to mature masterpieces. The Comedy of Errors*, based on Plautus, demonstrates Shakespeare's classical learning and farcical skill. A Midsummer Night's Dream*, probably written for an aristocratic wedding around 1595, interweaves four plots with unprecedented structural sophistication. The play explores love's irrationality, the relationship between art and nature, and the power of theater itself. Much Ado About Nothing and As You Like It*, both written around 1599, showcase Shakespeare's gift for witty dialogue and romantic comedy. Twelfth Night*, probably composed in 1601, represents the culmination of Shakespeare's comic art. The play combines disguise, mistaken identity, and romantic confusion with melancholic undertones. Fest's final song, For the Rain It Raineth Every Day, suggests that comedy provides only temporary escape from life's sorrows. This darker sensibility would soon dominate Shakespeare's work. The major tragedies, written between 1600 and 1607, represents Shakespeare's supreme achievement. Hamlet, composed around 1600, transforms the revenge tragedy into a profound meditation on consciousness, mortality, and action. The Prince of Denmark's soliloquies articulated a modern subjectivity previously absent from English drama. The play's textual complexity, it exists in three substantively different early versions, has generated centuries of scholarly debate. Othello written around 1604, examines jealousy, race, and manipulation. The Moorish general's destruction by Iago's machinations creates unbearable dramatic tension. Shakespeare's decision to make Othello noble and dignified rather than barbarous challenged his audience's racial prejudices, though the play's sexual anxieties also reflect period assumptions about miscegenation. King Lear probably composed in 1605, presents Shakespeare's bleakest vision. The aged king's division of his kingdom and rejection of his honest daughter Cordelia initiates a cascade of suffering culminating in madness, blindness, and death. The play's cosmic scope, ranging from palaces to heath to hovels, and its unflinching presentation of human cruelty pushed tragedy to its limits. For centuries, the play was considered too painful for performance and was staged only in adapted versions that provided a happy ending. Macbeth written around 1606, explores ambition, guilt, and tyranny. The play's supernatural elements, witches, ghosts, prophecies, create an atmosphere of cosmic disorder. Macbeth's psychological disintegration following Duncan's murder remains one of drama's most powerful portrayals of conscience. James I's accession to the English throne in 1603 likely influenced the play's Scottish setting and emphasis on legitimate succession. The late romances, Pericles Cymbeline The Winter's Tale and The Tempest written between 1607 and 1611, blend tragedy with miraculous recovery. These plays feature long separation and eventual reunion, emphasizing forgiveness and renewal. The Winter's Tale combines pastoral comedy with tragic intensity, separated by a 16-year gap that defied classical unities. The Tempest probably Shakespeare's last solo-authored play, presents Prospero's renunciation of magical power. Many readers have seen Prospero's farewell to his art as Shakespeare's own valediction. Sources, books, and pages. Stanley Wells, Shakespeare, A Life in Drama, pp. 88-267 Stephen Greenblatt, Will in the World pp. 290-377 James Shapiro, The Year of Lear, Shakespeare in 1606 pp. 78-234 Harold Bloom, Shakespeare, The Invention of the Human pp. 1745 Selected Sections, Part 8 Poetry Shakespeare's achievement in non-dramatic poetry, though less celebrated than his plays, demonstrates comparable artistry and secured his early reputation among educated readers. Venus and Adonis published in 1593, was Shakespeare's first printed work. The narrative poem, based on Ovid's Metamorphoses tells of the goddess Venus's unrequited passion for the beautiful youth Adonis, who rejects her advances before being killed by a boar. The poem's erotic sophistication and virtuosic handling of the six-line stanza appealed to fashionable readers. Shakespeare dedicated it to Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton, a young nobleman and potential patron. The dedication's respectful tone suggests Shakespeare sought Southampton's financial support. The poem succeeded commercially. It was reprinted numerous times during Shakespeare's lifetime, far exceeding his play's publication frequency. University students quoted it. It established Shakespeare's credentials as a learned poet capable of sophisticated classical adaptation. The Rape of Lucrece published in 1594, followed a darker trajectory. This poem recounts the Roman matron Lucrece's violation by Tarquin and her subsequent suicide, which provoked the overthrow of Rome's monarchy. The poem explores themes of honor, consent, and political consequence through elaborate rhetorical set pieces. Shakespeare again dedicated the work to Southampton, this time with greater warmth, suggesting their relationship had developed. Whether Southampton provided financial support remains uncertain, though the dedications imply Shakespeare hoped for patronage. The Sonnets, first published complete in 1609, represent Shakespeare's most enigmatic poetic achievement. The sequence of 154 sonnets explores love, beauty, time, mortality, and poetry itself through intricate formal patterns. The first 126 sonnets address a young man, urging him to marry and procreate to preserve his beauty, before developing into expressions of passionate devotion complicated by rivalry and betrayal. Sonnets 127–152 concern a dark lady who becomes the poet's obsession despite her moral and physical darkness, contradicting conventional praise of blonde beauty. The final two sonnets are mythological exercises on Cupid. The sonnet's biographical implications have provoked endless speculation. Who was the young man? Who was the dark lady? Who was the rival poet? Was Southampton the fair youth? Attempts to identify these figures have generated more heat than light. What remains clear is the poetry's extraordinary quality. Shakespeare's manipulation of the sonnet form, his exploration of paradox and ambiguity, and his honest presentation of desire's contradictions make the sequence a pinnacle of English lyric poetry. The publication's circumstances remain mysterious. The dedication, signed by the publisher Thomas Thorpe rather than Shakespeare, addresses Mr. W.H. as the only begetter of these ensuing sonnets. Whether begetter means inspirer or procurer, and whether W.H. is the young man or someone else entirely, cannot be determined. Whether Shakespeare authorized publication is unknown. The sonnets never appeared in a second edition during his lifetime, suggesting limited commercial success, though they may have circulated privately in manuscript earlier. *** Sources, books, and pages. *** Catherine Duncan Jones. ** Shakespeare's Sonnets, Arden Edition, pp. 189. Park Honan, Shakespeare. A Life. *pp. 152–174. Stephen Greenblatt. Will in the World. *pp. 224–255. Stanley Wells. Shakespeare. For All Time. *pp. 6793. Part 9. Personal life and character. Reconstructing Shakespeare's personality from historical records proves difficult. He left no diary, no personal letters, no autobiography. What survives are legal documents, business transactions, and contemporary references, material revealing financial dealings more readily than inner life. Shakespeare accumulated substantial wealth during his career. Beyond his income as shareholder in both the Lord Chamberlain's Men and the Globe Theatre, he made strategic property investments. The purchase of New Place in 1597 for £60 established him among Stratford's elite. In 1602, he bought 107 acres of agricultural land near Stratford for £320. In 1605, he invested £440 in a share of Stratford's tithes, an income-generating property right that brought annual returns. These investments demonstrate financial acumen and accumulation of capital far beyond what most playwrights achieved. He also engaged in minor litigation over debts, both as creditor and defendant. In 1604, he sued an apothecary for an unpaid debt of less than £2. Such legal activity was common among men of property, but reveals a careful attention to financial matters some find unpoetic. Shakespeare's religious beliefs remain opaque. His father John may have maintained Catholic sympathies, and some scholars detect Catholic resonances in the plays. However, Shakespeare conformed outwardly to the established Anglican Church. His will contains conventional Protestant formulas. His plays avoid overt religious controversy, though they engage profound theological questions about providence, justice, and mortality. The safest conclusion is that Shakespeare, like many of his contemporaries, navigated the period's religious tensions pragmatically. His political views similarly resist definitive characterization. The plays present monarchs both noble and tyrannical, rebellion both justified and criminal. This apparent even-handedness may reflect genuine ambivalence or prudent avoidance of dangerous positions. Elizabethan and Jacobean England punished seditious speech severely. Playwrights who offended authority faced imprisonment or mutilation. Shakespeare's plays raised political questions without advocating specific positions, perhaps a survival strategy as much as philosophical stance. His relationship with his family remains largely undocumented. He maintained connections to Stratford, purchasing property and eventually retiring there, but spent most of his working life in London while his wife and daughters remained in Warwickshire. His will, drafted in March 1616, distributed his property among family members. He left the bulk of his estate to his elder daughter Susanna, married to the physician John Hall. His younger daughter Judith received a smaller portion, perhaps because her husband, Thomas Quiney, had proved less respectable. The famous bequest of the second-best bed to his wife Anne has been interpreted both as insult and as intimate gesture. Contemporary references suggest Shakespeare was well liked. Ben Jonson, though critical of some aspects of Shakespeare's art, praised his character warmly. "I love the man, and do honor his memory on this side idolatry as much as any." No evidence suggests the personal quarrels that marked relationships among other playwrights. Shakespeare appears to have conducted professional relationships with diplomatic skill. Sources, books, and pages. Samuel Schoenbaum, William Shakespeare. A Documentary Life pp. 178-234 Park Honan, Shakespeare. A Life pp. 279-335 Peter Ackroyd, Shakespeare. The Biography pp. 345-398 Stephen Greenblatt, Will in the World pp. 378-405 Part 10. Final year Shakespeare appears to have reduced his theatrical activity around 1611. The Tempest, probably completed that year, was his last play written entirely alone. He subsequently collaborated with John Fletcher, his successor as the King's Men's principal dramatist, on at least 3 plays: Henry Roman 8 *, The Two Noble Kinsmen *, and The Lost Cardenio *. This gradual retirement allowed Shakespeare to spend more time in Stratford while maintaining financial ties to the King's Men. He no longer needed to produce 2 plays annually or perform regularly. His investments provided steady income independent of active theatrical work. He remained involved in Stratford affairs. In 1613, he purchased a gatehouse in Blackfriars, London, though whether he resided there or held it purely as investment remains uncertain. That same year, he contributed to a fund for repairing Stratford's highways. He appeared as a witness in a legal case in 1612. His health apparently declined in early 1616. In January, he revised his will, originally drafted the previous year. The revisions addressed complications arising from his daughter Judith's marriage to Thomas Quiney. Quiney had gotten another woman pregnant, who died in childbirth along with the infant. This scandal necessitated adjustments to Judith's inheritance to protect her interests. The will's detailed provisions reveal Shakespeare's material circumstances. He owned substantial property, household goods, and money. He made bequests to friends and colleagues, including fellow actors John Heminges, Richard Burbage, and Henry Condell, to whom he left money to purchase memorial rings. He remembered the poor of Stratford. The distribution suggests a man conscious of social obligations and familial responsibilities. William Shakespeare died on April 23, 1616, according to the inscription on his monument, which states he died in his 53rd year. The causes of death are not recorded. Later tradition, reported by John Ward, vicar of Stratford in the 1660s, claimed Shakespeare died of fever contracted after a merry meeting with fellow writers Ben Jonson and Michael Drayton. This story, recorded 50 years later, is unverifiable. He was buried on April 25, 1616, in Holy Trinity Church, Stratford, where he had been baptized 52 years earlier. His grave lies in the chancel, a position of honor typically reserved for clergy and prominent citizens. The stone over his grave bears a curse against disturbing his bones. Good friend, for Jesus' sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones. This doggerel verse has protected Shakespeare's remains from the relocation that affected many graves when the church was renovated. A monument was erected on the chancel wall, probably before 1623. It shows Shakespeare with pen and paper, depicted as a writer rather than an actor. The Latin inscription praises his art and compares him to ancient poets. The monument confirms his contemporaries recognized his exceptional achievement even before the first folio consolidated his literary reputation. Sources, books and pages. Samuel Schoenbaum, William Shakespeare. A Documentary Life pp. 235-287 Park Honan, Shakespeare. A Life pp. 336-398 Peter Ackroyd, Shakespeare. The Biography pp. 478-512 Stanley Wells, Shakespeare. For All Time pp. 118-Part 11 First Folio. The First Folio, published in 1623, stands among the most important books in English literary history. Without it, half of Shakespeare's plays would likely have been lost forever. The volume preserved 18 plays never previously printed, including Macbeth Julius Caesar Twelfth Night The Tempest Antony and Cleopatra and As You Like It The project was undertaken by John Heminges and Henry Condell, Shakespeare's fellow actors and shareholders in the King's Men. Their epistle to readers explained their motivation: only to keep the memory of so worthy a friend and fellow alive as was our Shakespeare. They positioned themselves as custodians of authentic texts against the diverse stolen and surreptitious copies, maimed and deformed by the frauds and stealths of injurious impostors, that had appeared in unauthorized quarto editions. Producing the folio required enormous effort and expense. Heminges and Condell gathered playhouse manuscripts, consulted previously published quartos, and organized 36 plays into generic categories: comedies, histories, and tragedies. They secured the cooperation of various stationers who owned rights to individual plays. They arranged with the printer William Jaggard and his son Isaac to produce the book. The volume's front matter was carefully designed to establish Shakespeare's status. Ben Jonson contributed a prefatory poem, To the Memory of My Beloved, the Author, Mr. William Shakespeare, which praised Shakespeare extravagantly while acknowledging Jonson's earlier criticisms. Jonson's famous lines, "He was not of an age, but for all time," proved prophetic. The poem established Shakespeare as England's greatest dramatist, superior to ancient Greek and Roman poets. Martin Droeshout's engraved portrait, which appeared facing the title page, provided the most authoritative image of Shakespeare's appearance. Though artistically crude, Jonson's accompanying poem vouched for its accuracy. "This figure that thou here seest put it was for gentle Shakespeare cut." The portrait shows a man with a high forehead, receding hair, a mustache and small beard, and an elaborate collar. This image has shaped how posterity visualizes Shakespeare. The folio's production involved approximately 900 pages printed on expensive paper. The retail price of 15 shillings to £1 made it accessible only to wealthy buyers. Approximately 750 copies were printed. About 235 survive today, preserved in libraries and private collections worldwide. Individual copies have sold for millions of dollars at auction. The volume's influence proved incalculable. It established the Shakespeare canon, though it excluded Pericles, and the collaborative plays The Two Noble Kinsmen and Edward Roman III*. It provided texts for plays that existed in multiple, conflicting quarto versions, though debates continue about which variants represent Shakespeare's intentions. It transformed Shakespeare from a popular playwright into a literary monument. Subsequent folios appeared in 1632, 1663, and 1685, each reprinting with modifications. But the first folio remains primary, the closest approach to Shakespeare's working texts available to modern readers. Every modern edition ultimately derives from this volume. Sources, books, and pages. Emma Smith, The Making of Shakespeare's First Folio pp. 1287 Anthony James West, The Shakespeare First Folio. The History of the Book pp. 1289 Stanley Wells, Shakespeare, For All Time pp. 94 126 Peter W. M. Blaney, The First Folio of Shakespeare pp. 145 Part 12, Shakespeare's Legacy. Shakespeare's influence on English language and world literature has no parallel. He contributed more phrases and expressions to common speech than any other writer. Break the Ice, Heart of Gold, Wild Goose Chase, In a Pickle, Love is Blind, Crack of Doom, these and hundreds more entered English through his plays. The Oxford English Dictionary credits him with the earliest recorded use of approximately 1,700 words, though some may have existed in speech before he committed them to paper. His impact on subsequent literature proved foundational. English poets from Milton through Wordsworth, Keats, and Tennyson to Eliot and Hughes engaged constantly with Shakespeare's works. Novelists from Fielding to Dickens to Joyce structured narratives using Shakespearean models. Playwrights from Restoration comedy through Shaw, Beckett, and Stoppard wrote in response to Shakespeare's dramatic achievement. His influence extended beyond English literature. Voltaire introduced Shakespeare to French readers in the 18th century, provoking controversy about whether his violation of classical unities represented barbarian genius or mere ignorance. German Romantics, particularly Goethe and Schiller, embraced Shakespeare as a kindred spirit who transcended rules through natural genius. By the 19th century, Shakespeare had become world literature, translated into virtually every written language. The play's theatrical vitality ensured their continued performance across centuries and cultures. Each era has reinterpreted Shakespeare according to its own concerns. The Restoration adapted the plays extensively, providing happy endings and moral clarity. The 18th century emphasized decorum and cut-the-body jokes. The Romantics emphasized passion and imagination. Victorian productions featured elaborate historical accuracy in costumes and sets. 20th century directors explored modernist fragmentation, Freudian psychology, and political critique. Contemporary productions set plays in diverse periods and locations, from fascist Italy to corporate boardrooms to post-apocalyptic wastelands. Film extended Shakespeare's reach exponentially. Laurence Olivier's cinematic Shakespeare introduced mass audiences to Henry V*, Hamlet*, and Richard Roman III*. Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, and Rand relocated Macbeth*, and King Lear*, to feudal Japan. Kenneth Branagh's populist productions and Baz Luhrmann's hyperkinetic Romeo plus Juliet proved Shakespeare could engage contemporary audiences. Countless adaptations, from West Side Story to The Lion King*, demonstrate the play's continued cultural relevance. Shakespeare's centrality to education has shaped generations. His works have been required reading in British schools since the 19th century. University English departments worldwide build curricula around Shakespearean study. This institutionalization has prompted both reverence and resistance. Post-colonial critics have questioned the imposition of Shakespeare in formerly colonized nations. Feminist scholars have challenged the play's gender politics. Yet even critics acknowledge Shakespeare's unique position in the literary canon. The Shakespeare industry generates enormous economic activity. Stratford-upon-Avon attracts millions of tourists annually. The Royal Shakespeare Company employs hundreds and produces acclaimed productions. Shakespeare's Globe, reconstructed near the original site, offers historically informed performances. Academic conferences, scholarly journals, and countless books sustain professional Shakespeare studies. Why does Shakespeare endure? Multiple factors contribute. His linguistic brilliance created poetry and prose of unmatched power. His characterization produced figures, Hamlet, Falstaff, Cleopatra, Iago, who seem psychologically real despite their origins in theatrical convention. His structural skill organized complex plots with apparent effortlessness. His thematic range encompassed politics, love, jealousy, ambition, mortality, identity, and power. His plays contain enough ambiguity to permit varied interpretation without dissolving into incoherence. Most importantly, Shakespeare's works engage fundamental human experiences across cultures and centuries. The plays ask questions rather than provide answers. They resist reduction to simple moral lessons. They present human beings in all their complexity, noble and base, loving and cruel, rational and passionate. This complexity ensures that each generation finds new meanings while the plays retain their power to move, entertain, and provoke thought. More than 4 centuries after his death, William Shakespeare remains the most performed playwright, the most studied author, and arguably the most influential writer in human history. His achievement towers over English literature and world culture. The man from Stratford who left school at 15, who never attended university, who worked as a commercial playwright in a profession considered disreputable, created works that have shaped human consciousness in ways still being discovered. This improbable trajectory from provincial Glover's son to universal genius remains one of culture's most remarkable stories. Sources, books, and pages. Gary Taylor, Reinventing Shakespeare, A Cultural History from the Restoration to the Present pp. 1411 Jonathan Bate, The Genius of Shakespeare pp. 1371 Stanley Wells, Shakespeare, For All Time pp. 127-398 Marjorie Garber, Shakespeare After All pp. Roman 13 989, Selected Sections.